Joe Matarese is on with Ryan Rebalkin, and Ryan actually just posted this from 5 years ago. Ryan just posted this in our subreddit recently. My buddy Drew Lane was checking it out, and he sent me a bunch of timestamps. Like, oh, you got to check this out. It's kind of funny. So it starts off with a really boring question. Hey, where are you from? And Joe can't make that easy, of course. Well, do you want to know where I'm from or where I grew up? I don't know. What? Whatever.
Just say something.
Just tell me something about your background so we can get into it here. So then Joe Matarese has to go through this whole explanation of, well, he was born in Philly. That's cool. But he grew up in Cherry Hill. That's not cool. Because that's like suburbia, rich white people. Lame. But I'm from Philly, though. I was born in Philly. Whatever. You grew up in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Moving on. And he has technical issues for the first 2 minutes, too, where there's an echo and he can't get his headphones to work, of course. It's only 5 years ago. We've all been doing this style of show for a very long time. So we get into the interview, and Ryan's show doesn't usually get a lot of people watching the live stream and commenting, but because Joe Matarese is on, people are attracted to the show. And so Ryan notices the chat is full of Joe Matarese trolls. And so Joe explains, you got to ignore the chat. You can't look at the chat, Ryan.
It seems like the majority of the chat people are people that are wanting to talk about you, which is totally fine. That's why you're here.
Oh, yeah, they're going to ask you what to ask me. I know what they're going to do, but something I've learned in the past maybe 2 or 3 years is you won't be able to even do the interview the way you want to do it if you're even looking at it. I don't even look at it. I just talk, and whatever they want to write, they write. But I'm not looking at it. I just here I am. I'm being me, and that's all I can do. So that's probably what you should do.
He even goes on to say, he's like, you can read that after the show. Let's not read it now. It's just going to mess you up. It's distracting. So don't look at all those people telling you what a loser I am. It's not necessary for this at all. Now, I'm going to draw a couple parallels between Joe and Stuttering John. One of them is that I guess Joe did a show where he watched his appearance on the Craig Kilborn show. So similar to how Stuttering John, we don't play the clips on this show because it's so boring. But just yesterday, John was playing a clip of him on the Howard Stern show fucking with Beetlejuice. And it was such a lame bit, and it went on way too long. And John's so proud of himself. He's like, look at that intern was into me. And he's pointing, and it's crazy. Watching your Glory Days stuff is so pathetic. I can't wait to do it someday. But right now I'm going to say it's very pathetic.
That's what Sundays will be.
Yes. Maybe this Saturday. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, episode 500 might be some of that. So apparently Ryan watched Joe watching Joe on Craig Kilborn. And so he brings this up and says, yeah. I noticed your network TV debut. You were watching that on your show the other day. And Joe has to correct him immediately, which is another Stuttering Johnism.
Oh, yeah. I looked at your IMDb, and I thought it was kind of cool that you did. And I actually watched your first appearance on TV, the Craig Kilborn show, your first stand-up. How old were you there, and how nervous were you to be on national TV in front of like millions of people?
Well, it's funny. Craig Kilborn wasn't my first national TV appearance.
Are you talking about Jim Brewer?
Network national television appearance. Like back then, MTV, VH1 were doing a lot of stand-up shows, but they didn't consider those network television shows. Right. Comedy Central. Like back then, everybody was doing it. Comedy Central's premium blend. MTV would have comedy shows. VH1, I did a ton of these. I must have done 5 different stand-up shows on MTV and maybe like 1 or 2 on VH1.
So immediately into his credits.
Yeah.
So I saw you were on Craig Kilborn. Yeah, but I was on a lot of TV shows. I was on TV all the time. In fact, I'll list them all for you right now.
Since you brought it up.
Yeah. It's like, all right, whatever.
You know what I love about his delivery, his cadence?
Yeah.
Sounds like Shuley doing an impression of him.
Yes, right.
Joe doesn't even sound like a real person.
No, I don't think he is.
Sounds like someone doing a voice.
It's a guy from Philadelphia. I'm not from Cherry Hill, New Jersey yet. Look at me over here. Oh, I'm from Philadelphia. So then he talks about his appearance on David Letterman. And, Ryan brings it up. He's like, oh, yeah, I saw you on Letterman. I love Letterman. Joe's like, yeah, I was actually on 2 different times on Letterman. And This is his big takeaway from his appearance on Letterman.
The best moment on Letterman was the second time I did it. I had this expensive blazer on, and I made a joke about the jacket and that I was going to return it after I did the show. Was like in one of the jokes. Right. And Letterman came over, like saying that was Joe Matarese, and like said, we'll be right back after the commercial or whatever. And we were still on the air, and he goes, nice jacket. That's a doozy, right? He got a laugh off of saying that to me. And I remembered as he said it, I had the price tag in my pocket, and I pulled the price tag out and showed it to the camera, showing that I'm returning this baby, right? And that got and it made Dave laugh.
Oh,
and
nice.
That's all you really want as a like. I was like, I just made him laugh. It wasn't off of my stand-up. It was off of a real moment that just happened, and that felt awesome. So,
wow, it's fucking Stuttering John all over again.
Totally.
The time he made David Letterman laugh.
Yeah.
And it's been all downhill from there.
It's crazy. It's crazy that's the anecdote he brings up. I made David Letterman laugh.
And Stuttering John would have returned the blazer.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's all very similar.
I bet
to
Joe
that.
did too.
Yeah, right. So this is crazy because now Joe is showing off his memorabilia from the David Letterman show.
if you saw the camera, if I could tilt the camera, you can look on my wall here.
You broke the internet. Hold on. Wait for it. It's coming back.
Does that say NYU?
From when I did the late show. Both cue cards are on top of each other. One of them's a small blue one that he has on his table, and the other one there below it is his cue card. Like he used the old school cue cards. He didn't have a teleprompter.
That's awesome. I would keep it too. That's a really cool idea to keep the cue card.
It's really cool to frame the cue card and have it above your desk. That's not like what a loser would do at all, Joe.
Yeah, I know.
It's really impressive.
I also have a bronzed used Kleenex that I fished out of his garbage can.
Here's that price tag he laughed at. I had the cameraman sign it. So he's kept the cue cards, but didn't just keep the cue cards, has them framed up on the wall. It's better than like the dog obedience diploma.
It's less embarrassing than that.
Slightly. So then Ryan doesn't know a lot about Joe Matarese at all, but he's learning as he's reading the chat coming through, and he's done some prep on this. So he has a question about the famous Fixing Joe episode, and the one that we just highlighted on the recent bonus show we did on WATP, where he had Artie Lang, Jim Norton, Anthony Cumia. And so he explains the whole reason for this show. He hired those cameramen. He had the band. He was trying to pitch this. He wanted this to be a TV show. He was trying to pitch this and make this into a TV show.
And I wanted to sell it as a television show. So I hired a camera crew, and I hired a monologue joke writer who's a friend of mine to write me some monologue stuff.
Which is funny because I remember making the comment, like, that was a good joke when he was doing the monologue part, which was very short, maybe like 4 or 5 jokes, and one of them was good. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, okay, we're off to a good start. I had no idea you hired a guy.
Yeah.
You're the comedian. Jesus, unbelievable.
It's funny because I didn't write it.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine came with a crew and filmed it. And then I booked those 3 comedians, and I kind of, because of those 3 comedians that were able to fill the club, when you have these famous comedian friends, sometimes they're hard to get a hold of, to like, even like you and I, we talked a little bit before we started recording, saying this is what it is, this is what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. There was none of that with who I had. And I'll say who it was. It was Anthony Cumia, Jim Norton, and Artie Lang. So I couldn't get them on the phone. Like, I was just nervous that they were going to even show up on time to do the taping. Right. So there was no like, hey, man, I'm trying to do a demo here for a television show, and this is what I'm looking for. Like, they thought they were just doing a podcast, right?
Right.
So they shit on me and shit on the podcast idea, and which is what I wanted, but I wanted a little bit of advice too mixed in, so we could take this and have a story arc in the episode, so I could pitch it as a show. And it's really hard to pitch something as a show if your guests are telling you your idea for a show sucks.
Sure.
So that kind of ruins the pitch. So it was unusable.
Well, not totally.
It was definitely usable for sure.
We found a use for it.
A lot of people found a use for it for sure. But if you guys remember, if you listen to the bonus show, I played what his setup was because, like he says, he presents a problem and then let's discuss it with comics and try to make it interesting. Basically, what he said is there's just aren't enough hours in the day. Go to bed late, get up early, I'm busy all day long. What are you supposed to do with that?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, a tough crowd with Colin Quinn would laugh that premise out of the fucking room. Like, what do you mean? That's not a good jumping off point. So they all just goofed on him instead. And you're telling me you can't text those three guys and say, just so you know, I'm trying to pitch this to a television network? Wouldn't you at least send a text to those guys and let them know that?
There are like a million ways to reach
I mean, they
out
showed
to
up
guys.
day of. You could have told them 5 minutes before the show.
No, he had no opportunities. It wasn't his fault at all.
He deserved everything he got.
No shit.
Sleepy Joe.
So as I mentioned, he had all these tech problems to begin with. So then he takes the headphones off and then he decides to put his headphones back on.
I'm going to put headphones on now.
Okay.
Oh, now
You look
I hear
serious.
You. Now I hear you way better.
Yeah, funny how that works, huh? You put on headphones and you can hear things better. And then 35 seconds later.
Went to therapy for many years and then finally started medicating the problems and how it made it a lot better. But how it affected me. Those headphones suck.
Okay. So are you better?
Great job, John. I mean, this is your studio you're in. Why don't you have headphones that work? It seems like that's on you probably. So then he's talking about his anger issues and getting on medication and therapy and all that. And so Ryan asks specific about his anger issue. And this is Joe's response to that.
It's fun talking to somebody that doesn't know me.
So that would be like if you were talking to Artie Lang, you're like, oh, you were hooked on heroin? Then you'd be like, yeah, you don't know anything about me, but you're Joe Matarese.
Yeah.
This guy's like, oh, you took medication for your anger issues? Like, everyone knows that. Not really.
Yeah.
not really, Joe.
I really enjoy talking to somebody that doesn't know what a giant loser I am.
Stop reading the chat. Stop reading the chat.
Yes.
More Stuttering John stuff, though. Just assuming.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like being offended by the fact that you don't know how famous I am. I dabble in medication.
Yeah.
You think I dabble in anti-anxiety? So this is the best part of this show. This is really the highlight for me. This is 5 years ago. I don't know what's going on with this. Maybe we'll get an update. But Joe was writing a play at the time of this podcast.
As you asked me these questions, I'm currently writing a play where Rocky is connected to the play and synchronizes with my life. But if you're a Rocky fan, you know the first Rocky movie, or the first Rocky movie when he fights Spider Rico at the beginning and he's doing okay, and then Spider Rico headbutts him and he beats the living shit out of the guy, right? And then goes into the locker room and has to get paid shit, right?
Right.
So, I mean, there were so many different moments in my career like that. Like, the comedians thought it was so great when someone would heckle me. I would like sweep the leg on a heckler. I would take them out to the point where they had two choices, either to leave and feel defeated and cry, or wait for me outside and want to kick the living shit out of me.
You're a stand-up. You're not Rocky. This fucking guy is like, I'm writing a play. It's about how my life is exactly like the movie Rocky. It's not. I promise you that.
But Philadelphia.
He is from Philly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about Cherry Hill, but it's close. It's a suburb of Philadelphia, so he's got that going for him. And I've seen the way he deals with hecklers. He actually has a video out that's pretty recent where it's like, this drunk woman in the front didn't know what she was getting herself into. And he called it something like perfect response to heckler or something like that. I watched it. It's so lame. He basically, hey, I'm talking, I'll do the jokes. And then she talks again. He's just like, lady, I need you to calm down. We're doing a show right now. This is not a good crowd response at all. And I love the fact just like I crush people so hard they want to kick my ass afterwards.
Yeah, the reason that they want to kick your ass afterwards is not because of the response to heckling. That's not the reason.
Did you notice the two ways you can handle his response to a heckle is you can either leave or leave.
Yeah.
I bet there's a third way, which is just be like, all right, whatever. Sit there.
Go fuck yourself, Joe.
Yeah. Or they can sit there and wait for the headliner to come up, which is why they're at the club in the first place. All right. So apparently Joe thinks, because he does the Rocky impression. He's from Philadelphia. He thinks this Rocky thing is really going to catch on. Rocky's very popular in 2018 or whatever this is.
I'm as popular as Rocky 5. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Beloved.
What's great, though, is that people aren't picking up on how great this is going to be. He's having a hard time pitching this play idea for some reason.
When you go Rocky centric, how does this affect your fans, or do you draw more fans in with this?
That's a good question. Well, I'm in Philadelphia doing that special. So
okay.
One of the reasons why I wanted to do it in Philly, and another reason why I like this play that I've been writing for a while, like I had to explain to different directors that I had read it because they didn't get it or understand what I was trying to do. And I go, you're not understanding. I go, I'm putting this up in Philadelphia. I'm not putting this up in Iowa. This is going to go up in Philly, and people know all this stuff there. They just do.
Yeah, everyone else is stupid. No one gets you, Joe.
Nobody outside of Philadelphia has heard of Rocky before.
It's so insane.
It's a play that he's writing.
He's writing a play about the parallels between his life and the movie Rocky. And when he pitches it to people, they say, I don't think that's going to be interesting for anyone. People like Rocky, they don't like you.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure why that's going to work. And it's just these people are all fucking idiots.
My Uncle Vito is just like Burgess Meredith. Oh, if you had met him, you'd get it.
Yeah, right.
Oh, you didn't meet him? Well, that's on you.
That's on you, yes. All right. So then Joe has to remind Ryan not to read the chat.
Because you, as the comedian, is so committed to it, it translates. So, like I said, it's the same with if you read a chat room while you're talking in an interview, it's going to fuck you up. But if you really connect to what you're saying and you don't worry about what anybody thinks, it becomes funny to everybody.
So he kind of snuck that in there.
Yeah.
Because he's explaining, he's just like, listen, even if people aren't into Rocky, I just do such a great job with it that people get into it either way. So then Ryan continues to read the chat and then transitions from there to asking about this one-man show that Joe is putting together. And it's a little bit different than most one-man shows that you might see.
This is good. I like it. I like the interaction these guys are doing. They have a tough love for you, it seems. I'm not sure why, but... So I want you to end this interview, though, going through that play that you're talking about. And can you just clarify for me? Because I'm a little bit confused as to exactly what it is. You said it's a one-man show.
Well, it's a one-man show, but there'll be actors in it. There'll be an actress playing my wife. There'll be an actor playing...
so stupid.
My friend. There's going to be... They'll be playing other people. But
friend.
It's kind of a play about my life.
I have one wife and one friend.
It's similar
to one fan show.
To Rocky in a way, and acknowledging the similarities.
By the way, I have a friend who messaged me the other day who's friends with Joe Matarese.
Yeah.
And he messaged me, he was watching one of our videos goofing on Joe, and he goes, don't ever stop doing this guy. He goes, Joe's a great guy. I love hanging out with him, but never stop doing this. And I even said to him, Joe seems like a nice enough guy. I'm sure I would enjoy his company if we were hanging out together.
Yeah.
He's harmless. It's fine. But he's so bad at everything.
My one-man show featuring multiple actors culminates in an interview with a guy in a blanket fort. Great. Perfect.
This must be around the time that Colin Quinn was doing those one-man shows, so he just thinks that that's popular. I'll do one of those too, except for I'll do it better.
I'll do it with more men.
Yes.
Like you saw KB getting super chats. He's like, oh, I can do this.
Right.
I got this.
Yes, very similar to that. He's insane. But I do want to see this play.
Oh, yeah.
If this play gets made or got made, I need to see it. I'll pay any amount of money. I'll pay money just to read the script. I don't even have to see the play.
I want to see Harrison Young play baseball and then go see this play.
Oh, my gosh. That's a night in Philadelphia for me right there.
And then go to Pickwick.
Sounds awesome. But we want to know, because all these parallels between his life and Rocky, like, what about the running up the steps part? What would you equate in your life? What was running up the steps?
What is my running the steps moment in my life? You know, what is my who is my Apollo Creed? What is my Apollo Creed? And like telling those stories, you know. America's Got Talent, like setting me up and then dropping me down, like telling the story of that and how that it can be similar to a Rocky thing. And like, what is my going the distance? What am I trying to do? What does that represent to me?
Of course, it's America's Got Talent. Yeah. I was on TV that one time. That's kind of like that.
I really wanted the answer to be that he ran up the steps.
That would have been funny.
That was what I was hoping for.
That's what I was expecting.
That would have been very funny.
Yeah.
And Joe says he's been writing this for a long time. It sounds like he's still not done with it.
Yeah, he's still workshopping it a little bit. Yeah. All right. So one more clip from this. And it turns out that Joe is a victim of Hollywood, just like a lot of these guys. You know, Hollywood will chew you up and spit you out because he had a development deal. He was making the big bucks.
One of the biggest amounts of money I ever made, I got this development deal with Will Smith's production company years ago. And I switched managers because this manager wanted me. And I did it. And he made me that money like within a month. And it's like, I know he wanted to manage me because he had the connection already. He knew the guy. He already had a development deal. He was representing Nick Cannon. And he was like, well, here's another young guy who I could probably score some money for, and then I'll take my cut. And then he got his cut, and then he became a shitty manager again, you know, after he got his percentage. He even said to me once, he goes, just so you know, if this sitcom that we're about to make doesn't get picked up, we're not going to be hanging out that much. Not as much as we've been hanging out. We were like friends. And he told me that. I was like, there is no more LA moment than that.
Guess what, Joe? You weren't friends.
Yeah.
You might have thought you were friends. He didn't. This is what salespeople do. They make you feel like you're important until they don't need you anymore. They don't give a fuck about you. Isn't that kind of sad, though?
Yeah.
He had a whole development deal. He was going to be a big shot in Hollywood. He's telling his wife, hey, take a month off. I got this. Then he ran. I was like, no, keep working.
It's also sad that he's like, yeah, this guy really wanted me, as if the previous guy did not want him at all.
He's had a tough time with managers, I'm getting the sense from a lot of the stories that he tells.
Yeah.
Because there's the episode we watched that was just from a week or two ago where he's like, yeah, I just fired my manager.
Yeah.
But he goes, oh, but it was mutual.
Yeah.
So probably like by the fifth email, if you don't respond to this email, then you're no longer managing me, sir.
Joe, it's not you, it's me.
I developed a sitcom called Number One Son, but it turned out there was already another show.
Speaking of which, he did not do a show this week, so he decided to post an old episode of his podcast from this same studio that he's in here, studio, quote unquote. He had Kevin Brennan on as a guest.
Oh.
Yes. And so I really need to dig through this, but I wanted to play this one clip where he's talking to Kevin Brennan about the Kevin Brennan roast. Now, of course, the Kevin Brennan roast, in my mind, it's all about Chad Suma. Right? And what a terrible job Chad did on that roast. But it turns out that Kevin Brennan, the reason why he came off the way that he did on his own roast is because he made Adam Hineker edit out all of his bombs. And he admits it right here.
So I put her at the end just so I make it easier for me to follow. Her and Tom Cassidy. And then they both crushed. They just fucking crushed. And I was like, literally, by the time Tom Cassidy was up there, I was genuinely pissed at how well he was doing at my own roast. Because I'm like, I know I won't be able to follow it. And plus, I put in, everybody was reading off notes. I couldn't read off notes because then I had my glasses on and I didn't want to do my glasses on. So I was kind of going from memory and, you know, and the jokes I'd never done before. So I was like, God damn it. And I just wanted to follow people who would kind of do okay. And then I would do great. And literally, you know, they saved my set. Adam saved my set because he edited it well. I just told him just take out any joke that doesn't get a laugh, you know, which is like half of mine. And but Patty's
this fucking guy.
That's funny to say.
He's always got excuses though. He's always got excuses for why he's not as funny as the other people. Well, I couldn't wear my glasses.
Yeah.
I didn't know my jokes.
I didn't want to look like a fucking nerd, so I just bombed instead.
Yeah, I just made Adam clean it up for me. Unbelievable. Only KB. So we'll be checking into that, I'm sure.
Who are these podcasts?